color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
You're looking at the big story after round number 1 of Top Fuel Dragster competition here at the NHRA Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals. Engine damage. That was the quickest motor that Joe Amato had ever owned. It qualified him here in the number 1 spot, a career best 494, but it blew up in round number 1 earlier today, and the crew is having to build a spare motor from literally a bare block. Now, ironically enough, just a few trailers up, Gene Snow, their opponent in round number 2, also experienced major mechanical problems in round 1. His crew up to the same task. The big question is, can both cars even make it to the starting line on time? And I think the winner, if indeed that happens, will have a big pat on the back for all of his crew members who made the transplant successfully. Okay, it's almost time for round 2 of funny car competition, and in the staging lanes is Brock Yates.
Well, Steve, while Gene Snow and Joe Amato have had problems with their engines, the man standing beside me has got Ed McCullough's engine running basically like a Honda Civic for the last couple of races, 2 wins at the Gators and the Southern Nationals. And I would imagine, Bernie, you got to feel pretty good about the whole setup. Or when you get into a situation, you just don't change anything or pray a lot, or what?
Well, really, things haven't been going quite as well as we'd like at this event. We've been struggling. We're having clutch application problems. We think we have identified the problem after that run, but there's only about a 50-50 chance that we've cured it. So we're especially vulnerable at this point. The paces are pretty quick. The guys are running good in general, and boy, we've got our work cut out for us. That's drag racing, isn't it? Just at the moment you think you got something really sorted out, it all goes away on you again. Yeah, it's an extremely humbling position to be in. You just never assume that you have a handle on it. It always throws you a new curve every time. Well, we know with you and that guy that pushes the pedals, so you're going to give it a good shot anyway. Well, we're trying our best. I hope we can pull it off. Congratulations, Bernie, on 2 great wins, and we'll watch for you. Thanks, Brock. Okay, Bernie Federle. And now, let's go to Big Daddy Darn Garlitz, 3-time NHRA world champion, for an overview of funny car competition.
Well, Brock, the fans of funny car are certainly having a very exciting season in their class. Even with Bernstein and Perdome out of the class completely and in Top Fuel, we still see a lot of new faces and very fast cars. Example, Casey Spurlock, the rookie in the class, won the Winter Nationals, and I thought, along with a lot of other people, that this was just a flash in the pan, beginner's luck, you know what I mean, but he has continued to be a dominant force. The world champion, Bruce Larson, runs good, but is challenged seriously by John Force and Ed McCullough. A lot of enthusiasm in this class, more than I've seen in the last couple of years, so I look for a real good season in funny car, and it's anybody's race at this point.
Well, the man under this fiberglass Oldsmobile shell, Bruce Larson, is not having the kind of season he wants to. He is the defending Winston champion in the category, has not been in the winner's circle, and this is the 6th race of the year.
You know, Steve, he's run real good, though. He's real strong in the points, so if he does win one, he'll be stepping right up.
Absolutely. He has had some consistency. In fact, he qualified number 3 here today. And here in the near lane, what a great story this is. Just 22 years of age. From Los Angeles, California, is Richard Hartman. And here come the ritualistic burnouts.
Well, you know, they got to do them. They got to put that rubber down on the track, get some sticky spots out there so they can back up into these places and get a good bite. A lot of the funny cars have been spinning their tires at this event, so they're really careful about doing good burnouts here today.
And, Don, they seem to be doing longer burnouts than at some tracks.
Well, you notice, Steve, there's a concrete launch pad. You'll see it as he backs up right here. Watch it as Larson backs up. You'll see there's the end of the pad right there. They're trying to carry those marks out past that point to ensure that the cars don't spin when they come off that concrete.
Bruce Larson, Dauphine, Pennsylvania, has been racing all of his adult life, as we said before, the defending champion. His crew chief, Maynard Yanks. Now, Maynard got that thing into the number 3 slot at a 528. Richard Hartman is a dream come true. Laverne, California. If you grow up playing baseball, you want to make it to the majors. Well, with the help of Nick Bonenfant Jr., Richard Hartman has made it to the major leagues of drag racing, the Nitro Funny Car category at just 22. Problems.
They can't get the car to back up. He's going to have to get off the track and get out of the way so Larson can make his run. Too bad.
Well, that's a tough break for him, of course, Don, and but he got this far really when Frank Kramberger in the first round failed to fire, so he got a little bit of luck there, but of course it runs out for him right now. Tough break for young Richard Hartman, who was going up against one of the best.
And here is that man, Bruce Larson. The body was up on that car, Don Garland.
Well, they always do that. They're running on one fuel pump when they're doing a burnout, and the crew opens up the second pump for the actual race and ties it off so that it won't vibrate shut.
As tricky as this racetrack has been, there's no question in my mind that Bruce Larson will go as fast and as quick as he can to try to get lane choice, which goes to the quicker car from the previous round. Here goes Larson with a launch.
Looks like a pretty good one.
Ooh, I don't think he's going to like it. A 540, way off his qualifying lap time of 528. The speed is right there, indicating he's got a lot of power at 278.72 miles per hour.
Well, you know, they set the clutch real loose to keep it from smoking coming off the pan. They gave up a lot of ET there, Steve.
Austin Coyle starting John Force's car, and he does it differently than anybody else. For a long time there, you heard the engine just run on the alcohol prime. He was squeezing into the injector. Finally, he nodded to Force, who turned the nitro on, and what a difference in sound, Brock.
Oh, instantaneous. There is no sound like an engine running on pure nitromethane. It's an unbelievable rattle. It sounds like the engine's literally going to come apart on the next explosion, right, Don?
And pure nitromethane it is. Most of these cars are running between 95 and 98% nitro at this point. In fact, they've just gotten some new fuel from another manufacturer, and it claims to be even purer than the old nitro, so they should get noisier.
As you get a ride with John Force during his burnout, let's go to the under the track and Steve with Bruce Larson.
Bruce, as much as we all like to see two-car drag races with the points and money at stake, it's got to bring a little smile to your face when you see your competitor idle down the racetrack and turn off.
It does give you a good feeling, and we wanted to go out there and see if we could repeat the first round performance or maybe run a little better, not do anything crazy. So this was a good tune-up run for the next pass.
Well, a 540,
We're going to be satisfied. We were trying to learn something.
Like what?
Trying to learn something about consistency with this cotton pick and clutch. So I think it's going to help us.
Right, if it can just be consistently quicker.
You bet. Thank you.
What Bruce is talking about is the pneumatic hydraulic clutches in lieu of the electronic clutches from last year. The electronics were much more repeatable, easier to adjust.
Here's John Force. The view John Force just got as the body came up on his funny car. Crew chief Austin Coyle always does that. What they're doing is putting another magneto online. They do the burnout with one, the race with two. John Force, the winner at the Super Nationals in Houston this year. The crew chief, Austin Coyle. There's none finer and few better paid, I might add. Now, Force has a bye run, just the way the ladder happened to work out with Kramberger unable to make it into first-round competition. And he'll be challenging the clock instead of another car. He wants lane choice, Brock.
Well, so far the lanes have been a little unpredictable here at Memphis, so you can be sure that John Force, that you see right there over his left shoulder, the launch, he'll run as hard as he can. You're with him as he runs this quarter mile in 5:38, 265 miles an hour.
Now, if you could just feel the G-forces to go along with that picture, Don Garland, that'd be one whale of a ride.
If we could ever get that into the home, we'd really have something, wouldn't we?
Here we see fresh oil going into the fresh engine of Joe Amato back in the pit area. They don't open the can at a time. When it comes to oil, they've got it all pre-measured out and just dump it in. Amato will be facing Gene Snow if both of them can get these engine repairs completed. Stay with us from Memphis.
The NHRA Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals in Memphis, Tennessee. A bunch of folks having a great time. I'm Brock Gates along with Don Garland and Steve Evans as we get ready for more funny car action. But in the meantime, the frantic engine changing goes on in the top fuel pits. That is the Gene Snow crew putting a brand new engine into his top fuel car. A fresh engine completely assembled and ready to go. Right now, let's go to Steve.
Well, John Force continues to be one of the top, if not the top, funny car in the country, 538.
Well, we're really excited, and it's coming around just like we planned. Crew's getting faster between rounds, and we got a shot at winning a race here.
The racetrack equal in both lanes?
I think the track's good. We're kind of following top fuel and watching the guys, but I think it's good. I think there's going to be some good heads-up racing.
That's the kind we like.
What John is saying, any of these top fuel cars all make about the same horsepower, so you can watch them and kind of tune your car off the other runs, because very little difference in power between any of these cars today.
Well, here is a tremendous matchup as round 2 of funny car competition continues. Mark Oswald in the fabled Candies and Hughes Ford Pro-bodied machine. Oswald has been a full-time pro driver for over 15 years, and there's few better. And he's been in the final round here at Memphis the past 2 years, thanks in great part to his crew chief, Leonard Hughes. The only thing Leonard might be better at than drag racing is fishing, because if he's not at the racetrack, you'll find him in the bayou. And here is the big story of funny car racing this year. KC Hollywood Spurlock, Hendersonville, Tennessee, came out of the alcohol funny car ranks, hired this young man, Ron Swearingen. Well, the numbers speak for themselves. The number 2 qualifier at 5:27, and they already have seen the winner's circle for the first race of the year. I don't know if video cameras these days can catch all the colors on Spurlock's car. It's quite a machine. The pretty red and white car of Mark Oswald you're looking at right now as they gently bump into the staging beams. They're away. Oh, what a good race.
Look at Spurlock make it move.
Oh, but Oswald holds him up. He had to blow an engine to do it, though. 5:37, the exact elapsed time for both drivers. The difference was Oswald on the starting line. Brock Yates is there.
Well, Steve, I'm with rather concerned Leonard Hughes. He just saw 5:37, so that can't make you too happy. It loses lane choice for you. Is that correct?
Well, we've been a little weak all weekend. We're still playing with this clutch, and Mark keeps coming through for us. If we can keep on, we'll be fine.
Well, I'll tell you what, at least this lane is working out. The first round, it was horrible, but people seem to be able to win in it now, so you got to feel a little better about that.
I don't think there's any difference in the lane, to tell you the truth. I actually liked the right lane going in, but everybody went to the left, and we kind of followed the flow. But I think it's fine.
Good. Well, it never stays the same, so we'll have to wait and see what happens, huh?
No, unless somebody breaks, it should be all right.
Good. Well, we hope not.
Okay, problem. Thank you.
Let's take a closer look in this replay. The 2 cars lead the line. You can see the definite advantage gained by Oswald. He absolutely did not trust KC Spurlock because he has been pulling off some really fantastic runs for the rookie of the funny cars. And he almost pulled it off this time. Look how close that finish was.
Well, guys, yet another bleeder down here. That's oil coming out of the Mark Oswald motor. You both ran 5:37s, but you wounded it to do it.
Yeah, it broke a rod right as I shut it off.
You're not the only one changing motors. If that's any consolation, it's happening on a regular basis here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Ours, it's been weak all weekend. We're trying to step it up. You know, it's hard to say. We might have went a little too far.
Going down the racetrack with Spurlock, what did you see?
Oh, I pretty much felt like I was ahead all the way. I just kept looking over for that. I know his car runs some big speed too, so I was kind of worried about him coming around me. I drove it all the way to lights too.
Now, do you have complete motors, or will you build a short block or a bare block? How do you approach this?
We've got short blocks. If the cylinder heads are good, we'd rather leave them on it. It's less adjusting to do with a new motor then.
We'll let you get to work.
Good. I hate this motor.
I hear the crewman said he hated that motor. I hated a few myself and was glad to see them blow up and get them out of the car.
Well, I'll tell you what, some guys in the Joe Amato pit are talking real sweet to this one. This is a brand new one, and they're hoping that it's going to work because he's going to go against Gene Snow in the second round at Top Fuel. We'll see that coming up pretty quickly, but right now, the Amato crew working hard. That's a big assembly deal to do right here, Steve.
Anytime they've got the mag drive out, like you just saw, you can bet that's a big deal. But they've seen that movie. It's like a soldier disassembling his rifle with a blindfold. I think they could do it blindfolded. Here is Ed the Ace McCullough, along with John Force, got to be considered one of the 2 top cars right now in the funny car category. He's won the last 2 events at Atlanta and Gainesville, Florida. Ace, well, he's the last of the old-time funny car drivers that started this whole traveling circus many years ago. His crew chief, originally from Canada, is Bernie Federley. They qualified, well, real nice at 5:35, not overpowering the racetrack. Here's a real bright spot in the category this year. Jim White, Tulsa, Oklahoma, had so much bad luck last year for Roland Leong and the Hawaiian car. Well, they qualified number 4 here at 5:29, but this season they have been the number 1 qualifier on 2 occasions. So it's White in the near lane. McCullough on the far side as starter Buster Couch brings them into the ready position. McCullough is in. White is in. Tremendous hole shot by Jim White, but he loses traction. White tries to come back. Some brilliant driving on his part, but not quite enough. A 5:40 defeats a 5.58 second elapsed time. White just didn't have quite enough muscle to catch him. Let's go to Brock.
Well, what do you think? A 5:40? not a record breaker, but it gets you into the next round.
Well, I feel plenty fortunate at that point. We had a little bit of problem there, and we fortunately came back just enough to get an ET to where we could get by. But that was just pure luck, and there was I just hope we can come up with something a little better to race for us next round.
What is it? A question? What's the racetrack laying out now? Is it clutch or tires or what?
Well, the racetrack's real tricky out of ways, and the air is still pretty good, so you can generate a lot of horsepower, but the application is extremely tricky, compounded by the fact we're having an adjustability problem in our application device, and so it's making it real difficult. We're just guessing at this point. Fortunately, if we get good data, we should be able to recover and maybe do something this next
Good deal. Well, good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Bernie Federle.
Now for a translation of an adjustability problem with our application device, here's Big Daddy.
I can't even believe Bernie Federle got that out of his mouth, but he was talking about that pneumatic hydraulic clutch. Here we see one of the most brilliant starts in the whole funny car sequence this afternoon. Jim White cuts a 428 light only to go up in smoke. Adjustability problem with that clutch. Loses the race for him and wins it for Ed McCullough.
But it still gives John Force the lane choice in the semifinals of the funny cars. The other pairing, Bruce Larson, Mark Oswald, with Mark Oswald having lane choice, if, of course, he can get a new engine stuck in that funny car. And now let's go to Steve at the other end of the track.
Well, as Ed McCullough gets the helmet off, I've got to ask Ace, are we seeing a new philosophy from this team instead of trying to rotate the earth with raw power?
Well, Steve, to be honest here, we're struggling. We've got some clutch problems that have shown up here, and we're having trouble.
You'd like to say you're conservative, but you're lost.
We would really like to say that we're playing this right by the book, but I mean, we got big problems, and we're working on it. But I don't know what it ran, but
540.
Great. Yeah, it wasn't great, but maybe we can inch up on it now. So,
thanks, Ace.
Thank you.
Okay, they've got their work cut out for them if they're going to beat John Force in the next round as we watch Laurie Johns, the young star of Top Fuel Racing, signing a few autographs. She'll face off against Dick LaHaye as more racing continues from Memphis. Stick with us.
We have a lot more racing to come here in Memphis, but when the action does end, stay tuned to TNN, because immediately after our coverage here of the NHRA Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals, it's NHRA Today, the weekly magazine show of the sport of championship drag racing. There's the man himself, Gene Snow, test firing that engine in the pit. Boy, what a job this crew has done. This has become rather commonplace, whether you have engine damage or not, just to make sure that there's no leaks. That has cost more drivers races on the starting line than anything else. If they see any fluid coming out of a motor, they will shut you off. And look at them inspect that power plant. All right, it's time for round number 2 of Pro Stock. It'll be the man from Pennsylvania, Joe Lapone Jr., up against the only Dodge-powered automobile in all of Pro Stock racing, and that is Darrell Alderman. Don Garlitz, how do you see the Pro Stock season so far this year?
This far into the season, the big news is that the driver of this car, Bob Glidden, is not the big news. But race fans, don't let that confuse you. Bob Glidden hardly ever starts a season real strong, but he finishes strong, so just watch out. But what this has done is created a lot of interest among the other competitors. People like Eckman, Morgan, Johnson, they're running strong, better than they've ever run. And this is made for real good, tight racing, and the fans just love it.
And just when we were starting to count the Dodge out, Darrell Alderman from Fairfield, Illinois, came in here and qualified number 1 at 7:25. Joe Lapone Jr., Berwyn, Pennsylvania. Lapone is hot and cold. He'll be the first to tell you that. He'll be right in the semifinals in the final round and then go 3 races and just can't do anything right.
Well, this, of course, is a sport of pure timing, and it's all decided generally here right at the starting line. A half a car length lead at the other end is usually a big one, an overwhelming victory, Steve.
Absolutely. It is Alderman away first. He won that war up the starting line. And he'll win it at the finish line as well. A 7:33 to a 7:35. Alderman left first and got there first. That's what you need to be successful in pro stock racing. Up now, well, here's the man Don Garlitz was talking about, Bob Glidden, and he is genuinely concerned, Brock Yates. He may have lost a little of his edge.
Well, it's fantastic that this man has dominated, won more NHRA championship events, I think, than anybody else, and generally is almost a shoe-in for victory.
You know, I don't think he's lost so much of his edge as the other guys have caught up with him. They've been watching him closely, and he's really having the drive to win these races these days.
And this is his arch rival, Warren Johnson, the Oldsmobile out of Duluth, Georgia. Glidden loves to race Johnson. Well, doesn't love to race him. He loves to beat him if he possibly can. Those two, well, they're just not best pals.
No, they're not. They've been banging heads for years, and one will win for a while. But, of course, over the years, Glidden has had all the best of it.
Pre-stage lights are on. They very carefully stage, bring the RPMs up tremendously high, and try to leave when they see the flash of the yellow light. A brilliant start. Here we see Glidden working that let-go 4-speed transmission. Where's Warren Johnson? We don't see him. Bob didn't see him because Glidden was there first. Identical 7.33 elapsed times, but Glidden humbled Johnson right off the starting line.
Well, these races are won and lost right at the starting line, as the boys said earlier, because the cars are sometimes separated only by a couple of thousandths of a second. Hard to believe. Different motors, different cars, different drivers, and the cars would be so close. Look at the graphics. The first numbers is what won the race. The .445 reaction time beats a .466.
Well, that's the kind of race you like to have against your favorite opponent. A pair of 33s, and you won it with driving.
Well, we won it. I don't know what we won it with driving, Steve. We've been really struggling. We finally made some changes and got the miss out of the car, but you're right. I sure do like to beat that guy.
How did you find the miss?
Well, we've changed everything. We've only changed probably 35 different things, so I wouldn't want to guess what it was.
At least you found it.
Well, let's not forget that guys like Glidden and Johnson have developed these engines to produce over 1,000 horsepower. Still carbureted pushrod motors, 500 cubic inches, an awesome amount of performance out of them, Steve.
Especially considering, Brock, they do that with 114 octane racing gasoline. There's no nitro, no superchargers, no nitrous oxide. Here is Ricky Smith. He's yet to win his first NHRA National Championship event, but he has made it to the final round this year, the car out of King, North Carolina. And he's up against a guy who's having his best season ever. Jerry Eckman, the Pontiac from Ventura, California, is owned by Bill Orndorff. They won the Winter Nationals and the Winston Invitational this year. They've made some sizable deposits to their racing bank account.
Well, once again, Don Garlett's going to be decided probably within the first couple of feet after the light goes green.
I hate to say it, Brock, but in this particular class, it's he who snoozes loses. It's almost true every time.
Well, it was Smith off the mark first, but Jerry Eckman has the raw power at the big end. 730 for Jerry to a losing 741, 188 miles per hour, the speed for the yellow Pontiac. Boy, here is just a beautiful automobile.
That's the Oldsmobile of Frank Iaconio out of New Jersey. He'll go against a man who's also on a hot streak, Larry Morgan from Ohio, Steve Evans.
Larry Morgan won the last race in the circuit, the Southern Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. He's from Newark, Ohio, and he clocked the quickest elapsed time of Pro Stock eliminations in round one. He's up against, as you said, Frank Iaconio. Iaconio beat the national record holder in round number one, Mark Towing.
Well, this is going to be, once again, head-to-head racing, absolute classic kind of drag racing. This is the stuff that really formed the basis of the sport way back when it started.
And it's Larry Morgan away first. Here comes Iaconio. Oh, Morgan. When you win by a clean car length in this sport, that's like a mile and some. A 7:29 wins it for Morgan to a losing 7:34 for Frank Iaconio. Larry Morgan is usually not first off the mark. He's got such power in that Bob Pinella-owned automobile that he plays it very conservatively. But he saw Iaconio perform in round one, Don Garlitz, and he knew, got him no slack.
I'll tell you, when you leave the mark first in this sport of pro stock racing, and you got more power from beginning to end, 729, 189 miles an hour, you're hard to beat.
So that sets up the pairings in the Pro Stock semifinals. Californian Jerry Eckman versus the Buckeye Larry Morgan, with Morgan enjoying lane choice. Glidden and Alderman. Alderman in the Dodge, and surprisingly enough, Alderman has the lane choice against a man who says he's still struggling.
Back in the top fuel pits, here's the Joe Amato operation. Crew chief Tim Richards has elected not to test fire the motor, as we saw Gene Snow do. We don't know if that's lack of time or confidence on their part.
It could be lack of time because there's Gene Snow. He's pulling into the lanes. He's ready. And you know Joe Amato heard Snow's engine running. And they always like to look for leaks. You never know about these fuel motors.
Back in Memphis, Tennessee for the Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals as we watch a crew chief of Bruce Larson, Maynard Yank, working on his engine, getting ready for his face-off against Mark Oswald in the funny car semifinals. And Steve is there.
I know it's hard to see, but there's a great big hole in the engine block of Mark Oswald behind that oil line. And coming back to the pits, headed up the racetrack, I found the reason why. Well, half of the reason why. That's a connecting rod, or that was a connecting rod. And at 9,000 RPM, when one of these gets loose, and it's hard to say why, whether it broke off of the pan or on the big end, it creates total havoc. When they take the oil pan off this engine, there'll be a lot more damage than a hole in the side of the block.
You ever wonder why they muscle these engines in by hand and don't use a hoist? Well, they save about 5 to 10 minutes in time by just muscling the motor into the chassis rather than setting up all the intricate hoists.
Okay, well, that time is of the essence. That's what drag racing's all about. As we get ready for round 2 of Top Fuel, Frank Bradley and Gary Ormsby. What a face-off this is going to be.
And it's the opposite of Bob Glidden and Warren Johnson. These two have been racing each other for 20 years and are still great friends.
Okay, as Bradley does his burnout, let's go to Don Garlits in the staging lanes.
Well, Brock, with the season a full 1/3 underway, the surprise is that Lori Johns, the young debutante from Corpus Christi, leads the Winston Championships. She won the Winter Nationals and the Southern Nationals on the way to doing this. The challenge that we all expected out of Bernstein and Prudhomme has not materialized. In fact, Prudhomme was beaten in the first round this morning, and Bernstein is sort of struggling. Former world champion Dick LaHaye and Joe Amato have not made their move that we all expected at this point. And the world champion, Gary Ormsby, is not much better. The points are very close among the top leaders in the class, and that means we're going to have a good, close season of racing. And, of course, the fans like that. It makes it very exciting.
If there's a sleeper, Don, in this whole deal, I think it's that man right there, Frank Bradley. He has not broken many parts this year. He qualified number 7 here at 5:07. He has run into the 4s on several occasions in Santa Rosa, California. The Beard, as the fans call him. His crew chief is Junior Connerty. He's responsible in many ways for that 5:07 that came in qualifying on Friday. Earlier in this event, Frank Bradley met up with Shirley Muldowney. Muldowney qualified 10th at 5:16. Her crew chief and husband, Ron Tobler, turning the wrenches. The car now owned by Larry Minor Racing. It was Muldowney in the far lane, Bradley in the near lane, and Muldowney gave Frank a driving lesson right off the starting line. She had a tremendous hole shot, appeared to be on her way to victory when the engine self-destructed, and Bradley got around, putting himself in the position here in round number 2 to face off with the Winston champion, Gary Ormsby, who went through 4 race cars in a single season to amass enough Winston points to take the title. No one worked harder in season 89 than did his crew chief, Lee Beard.
And the NHRA rule changes for 1990, taking away the electronic clutches and the gear ratio of mandatory 320 maximum, really affected this team because they were running on a 290 gear and they had that electronic clutch dialed in. Lee Beard was definitely hurt by that move.
And he's very glad it's a long, long season as they hope to get a handle on it. In the near lane, pre-staged, is the car dealer from Roseville, California, Gary Ormsby. Far lane, Frank Bradley, the winner of the California Nationals last season. They're ready, and they're away. Ormsby with an early lead. Ormsby has problems. Bradley goes on to win it. 5:08, 275 miles per hour. 2 rounds in a row. Bradley has found himself behind, only to have his opponents blow up.
Junior, you got to be pleased. Frank got out a little late, but ran him down in the lights.
Well, we made a lot of changes between rounds. We had a lot of clutch changes, and we just went for it.
You had to be real nervous about this lane.
We were a little bit, but I think they're straightened out.
Well, Ormsby took a tremendous starting line advantage on Frank with that start. He looked like the Ormsby of 1989, and it looked like he was going to hold on to it. Well, evidently, he must have had a lean-out jet that turned on because the engine was charging just fine, and all of a sudden you see a lot of smoke come out of the pipe, indicating a blown piston. And, of course, Bradley just charged on to win the race.
Well, they're rushing to get Frank Bradley off the racetrack. And, Frank, even if Gary Ormsby hadn't had driveline problems, your 508 would have been tough to match.
Yeah, well, things are starting to come around a little bit. We've been running good, smoking tires back and forth with this new clutch setup, you know. Guys are doing a good job, but I don't want them to know that.
Might have to give them a raise.
Yeah.
All right, so Frank Bradley capitalizing on the misfortunes of Ms. Muldowney, and Gary Ormsby moves on to the semifinals.
Now there is Buzzy Carter, crew chief for Eddie Hill. He's behind the car. Eddie's wife Brucey in front of the car because they're being very careful to line this machine up right in those black tracks of the burnout.
And here at Memphis, we can really see those tracks. And notice how Eddie Hill moves his front end around to make sure that that car stays right in the tracks, following the crew's instructions very carefully.
Well, if you don't do that, the burnout was just a worthless, expensive exercise. Who's going to race Eddie Hill? Well, over in the far lane, the big red car of Kenny Bernstein, and we will ride with him. His crew chief, Dale Armstrong, is finally sneaking up on him. They haven't been in the fours yet, but in round number one here, Bernstein ran a 5.06 to defeat Jim Head. Armstrong was very happy with that performance, as there's a lot more in the car. And when you're so conditioned to winning, as Dale and Kenny are, having won 4 funny car titles, it's tough to be in this position. Eddie Hill knows how tough it is. The man out of Wichita Falls, Texas. He actually qualified a bit better than Bernstein, and he, with the help of crew chief Buzzy Carter, defeated Tommy Johnson Jr. in round number one.
Well, actually, the problem in the Bernstein camp has not been the driving. Kenny has been doing an excellent job in the top fueler, much better than I thought he would, being he came out of a funny car. It's been mechanical problems is what plagued the team.
Well, and you're right, Don Garlitz. Dale Armstrong says, take that, Texan. It was Kenny Bernstein off the mark first with a very nice 5.06 elapsed time. Let's go down to the starting line. Brock Yates will be with Dale Armstrong. Brock?
Congratulations. This right lane seems to be working now for everybody.
Well, yeah, it came around. Obviously, we didn't have choice, but we went a different way on the clutch than we've had in the last few months, and maybe it's going to show something.
Well, it sure was a good pass. Congratulations. Okay, Dale Armstrong, pleased man.
Well, as you hear, it's very difficult for drivers or crew chiefs to talk about anything else but the clutch. That's on everyone's mind, including the crew chief for John Force, Austin Coyle. As he adjusts the valves on that Hemi engine, we'll be back for more drag racing action from Memphis right after these words. Hang in there with us. Well, these fans here, were they not at the race, they'd probably be on the phone, because if it's a drag racing feature, you're sure to want to take advantage of. It's NHRA Now, presented by Castrol. NHRA Now is a 24-hour telephone hotline featuring in-depth coverage about your favorite drivers and events. We're in the Larry Morgan pit area. There you see those great big carburetors about the size of a 55-gallon trash can. They're getting it ready for the Pro Stock semifinals to come, where Morgan will face off with Jerry Eckman, and that might be the best Pro Stock race of the day when it happens.
All right, back to top fuel action. This is that beautiful red and black automobile of Lori Johns that Don Garlitz was with a little bit earlier in the show. She is going to be a powerful contender for this man, Dick LaHaye, former top fuel world champion out of Lansing, Michigan.
Dick LaHaye won the Super Nationals at Houston Raceway Park this past March, so is well up there in the point standing. His crew chief daughter Kim qualified the car at a 5.03, and they punted Wayne Bailey out of the field in round number one. Lori Johns is the only repeat winner in the top fuel category so far this year, and everyone giving tons of credit to this man, Larry Meyer. Very quiet gentleman, does a tremendous job with the top fuel motor, and Brocky's very economical with parts. They don't break much.
Apparently, Don Garlitz, he runs a very basic setup for Lori Johns. No tricks, just a well-prepared automobile.
They can't afford to break much. They're on a very limited budget. I've been over that trailer. There's not a lot of spare parts hanging in there.
All right, great start, but smoke from Dick LaHaye. He likes tightens up the tires, and Laurie Johns goes on to an easy victory.
A 534. Boy, did she fall off. At only 202 miles an hour, there's something wrong there. Let's go to Brock back at the starting line with Larry Meyer.
Congratulations. Did you change anything for this pass?
No, it looked like the belt came off. That's why it fell off in ET, but looks like it left pretty good.
Good deal. Congratulations.
Thanks. I think we found what we lost yesterday.
Well, a real break for Laurie Johns because Dick LaHaye had made a tremendous starting line move. And had he not applied the clutch just a little too early, he could have won this race. And then you see the fuel come out of Laurie's pipe. The belt falls on the drag strip. A real early shutdown, but LaHaye couldn't make it up.
Well, here's some trouble in the staging lanes. That Joe Amato's crew changing the left front tire on that automobile, that tiny little tire that Don Garlett's introduced a couple of seasons ago. They've got troubles. They got to get to the line right away against Gene Snow. And now let's go to the far end with Steve.
Well, the blower belt is off of the Laurie Johns car, but Laurie, this time I don't believe it was belt failure. Something internally caused that one.
Yeah, it sure did. I heard it go away. It was a pretty loud bang, and I guess the blower belt came off as a consequence. But we've been real lucky with engine parts since the beginning of this year, and we're starting to hurt a few things now, but I guess that's what goes along with winning.
And 200 more Winston points and beating a guy you needed to beat, Dick LaHaye.
We did need to beat Dick LaHaye. He was knocking on our back door, and I was talking to Kim yesterday, and she said it's nice being in the #1 spot, and I said, yeah, but for how long? So we're all so close together. We'll just have to take it one round at a time.
You've got a great crew to put this car back together for the semifinals.
We sure do.
You can be sure that Larry Meyer and his crew will find out what the problem is with Laurie Johns' automobile as we get a unique view of Gene Snow's car, that top fueler that will go against Joe Amato. The engine fired. He's going to slide into the staging lanes and do his burnout. And I tell you, Big Daddy, this is going to be a good race between this pair.
Well, you can bet it is. This is the first time that Joe Amato has heard his engine run. They did not get a chance to fire it early in the pits to check it out. However, Gene Snow, he did start his, so he knows his is all right. So Joe is listening to his engine for the very first time right now.
All right, he put some revs into it. Everything seems to work on his burnout, so he's gone that far. And now let's go to Steve Evans at the far end, who's had a closer look at Laurie Johns' engine.
Brock, Don Garlitz, here's an update on the Laurie Johns car, and I don't have to tell either one of you what we're seeing here. I hope the camera is seeing it. The rods are out of this car. Connecting rods are broken, knocked pieces out of the side of the block. We're talking motor change without question.
Well, Don, you said you had a look inside the trailer. They got a spare engine in there.
Yes, they have, but they might lose their combination, and this could be a problem for the next round.
Well, there's a man, Tim Richards, who can tell them what it's like to have to build a motor between rounds. He just accomplished that feat along with the crew for Joe Amato. And, boy, I tell you, Don, this engine sounds stout. I mean, it's hitting on all 8 cylinders. There's nothing wrong with Joe Amato's power plant. Amato, a 2-time Winston champion in Top Fuel, a very successful businessman, the auto parts world from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. And he treats Tim Richards like the boss at the racetrack, even though he's Joe's employee. That's that relationship. Gene Snow, ever the innovator and tinkerer, some would say, from Fort Worth, Texas. Just ask his crew chief, Chris Eckert, who occasionally will lock him in the trailer to keep him from messing with a good combination.
You can bet right about now, Joe Amato's really feeling good. I know as a driver, after you've made your burnout on a brand new engine and you feel that baby thumping, you really feel good about it.
You can just tell by the way it's rocking on the tires.
Yes, you can.
All right, here it is, Snow and Amato. Amato near lane, Snow, Amato raw fuel coming out of the engine in the far lane. It's a beautiful start. It's a beautiful drag race. Oh, boy, Jerry Amato and White had to look at the wind lights twice to make sure they had done it. A 5:02 for Amato, a 5:07 for Gene Snow. Let's go to Brock at the starting line.
Well, Tim, a 5:02, what do you think this time of day? You happy?
I'm happy with it. We're pretty concerned. When you have to change a motor, you think it's the same, but you never know for sure, and we're happy over the 5:02.
Good. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, Tim Richards, happy man.
Well, I have to give congratulations to both teams. 5:07 and a 5:02 is very respectful for brand new engines. Both drivers did an excellent job. Snow took a little starting line advantage, but the Tim Richards prepared motor was a little stronger. What can I say? It makes Amato the winner.
And a great drag race. Matter of about a half a car length decides it. And that will put Joe Amato into the Top Fuel semifinals against Kenny Bernstein, with Amato enjoying the lane choice. Laurie Johns goes against Frank Bradley in the other half of the Top Fuel semifinal, with Frank Bradley having the lane choice.
Any doubt we may have had about the quality of the two power plants in that drag race was quickly dispelled. Your 502, his 507, both were strong.
Well, that was nice to make an engine change like that and be able to go out and run a 502. That's a credit to the crew of both teams.
So many competitors have complete spare engines. You guys build yours from a bare block. Why?
Well, our combination we're running right now is a little different, Steve, than what we normally been running. So the engine that was in the trailer that was all assembled was different than the one we raced with. So we wanted to, Timmy took the block and took the motor apart and actually built the bare block from ground up to make it the same as we're running them fours with it.
That's a lot of confidence to do that in the amount of time you have.
And we didn't even start it up before we could go out there to race, so that's a real lot of confidence.
Semi-final bound is Joe Amato.
And the beautiful part, it's all still in one piece.
All right, we'll see Amato against Bernstein later, but right now, those determined eyes belong to John Force. His car is in the staging lanes, ready to go against Ed the Ace McCullough in the funny car semis.
We're back in Memphis for the NHRA Cheap Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals, presented by TNN. And it's time to make some noise and make some smoke with the funny car semifinals. I'm Steve Evans, along with Don Garlitz and Brock Yates.
All right, two veterans of funny car competition going against each other here in the semifinals. Ed McCullough, John Force. There you see Force doing his burnout. Both these men, veteran drivers, difficult to pick one against the other, but they both look for an edge. And earlier, Steve had a look at an effort on Force's part.
As crew chief Austin Coyle fills the tank with nitromethane on the John Force funny car, I'm reminded that since nitro was discovered by the racers in the mid-50s, it has remained basically the same high horsepower fuel. I'm sure there have been improvements in the refining process, but the fuel Austin Coyle is putting in this tank today is a bit different. We're calling it Chinese nitro because it does indeed come from China. And the difference, I'm told by the people importing it, is that this fuel is not petroleum-based like the nitro in this country. And China has the only plant that can make it with natural gas, and they claim that without the petroleum, it cuts down on detonation. Well, you know, that sensation is pinging in your car going up a hill. It's hard on parts, and it robs horsepower. Austin says it's still too soon to tell whether there are distinct advantages. He thinks the detonation problem is less. We do know they sound different, and the fuel smells just a little different. Chinese nitro.
Well, Don Garlitz, you've been around that hot stuff for over 30 years. What do you think?
I think it is better. I talked with the importer. The fuel is purer, and that's very important. Not made with petroleum. That could well be important. I think these cars that have tried this fuel have shown an increase in power. Now, whether they want to admit it or not, that's another story.
Let's go for a ride with John Force. And Force, maybe too much Chinese nitro. He blazed the tires. He got back on the throttle trying to catch his opponent. But it's Ed the Ace McCullough going to the final round with a 542. He just kind of stuck there in the 540s and not much speed at 267 miles per hour.
All right, let's get ready for the next pairing in funny car semifinal action. That is the Oldsmobile of Bruce Larson. His crew getting ready to drop the lid. Don Garlitz, that's a brand new engine in Mark Oswald's Ford Pro.
Well, Oswald won't be comfortable until he feels it running and he makes his burnout. By the time he gets back, he'll be feeling good about it.
An interesting matchup. Larson's car is running well, although Oswald's car had lower ET, but he's got a fresh motor on board. How do you handicap this, Don?
Well, the way I see it, Larson will be more conservative and kick back, where Oswald will drive the car to the absolute limit, not knowing what the performance is going to be. And he's a little feisty anyway. You know, he's been getting these guys out of the gate. And that's how I see it.
Okay, let's go to Steve.
For the third NHRA national event in a row, Ed McCullough goes to the final round, 542.
Well, Steve, you know, we'll take them any way we can get them. I mean, we're not running that well here. We're being a little bit lucky, but we're not smoking the tires, and we're getting down the racetrack, and I guess that's what wins races.
Been a long time since anybody won 3 in a row. You got a shot to do it.
Well, I won 3 in a row in 1972. I can't even remember that long ago, but we'd like to do it. We'll see what happens. We'll see who we get here, if it's Larson or Oswald, and I hope it's, well, I won't say who I hope.
How bad would lane choice hurt you, psychologically or even performance-wise?
Right now, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't even care. Lane choice, so be it.
All right, there's a reasonably optimistic man, considering that he is, as he said, he hasn't been running that well, Don.
He's been running better, I think, than he'd like to admit.
Well, he's a national record holder, you know, and you want to go out and run in the 20s every time you get on the racetrack. He's running as good as anybody else during eliminations. That's all that counts. Oswald near lane, the champ. Larson in the far lane. It's a good start. The edge to Oswald. And it is Oswald. New motor and all. A 540 to a 550. Larson just didn't have the punch, Don Garlett.
No, he didn't. And Oswald even clicked that thing off a little bit early because, you know, on a new motor, they always do that. Watch this start. Beautiful move by Oswald. Like I told you, he was going to give it everything he had on the new motor. It's even carrying a hole there once in a while, but it picks him up. And when it picks him up, it leaves Larson in the dust. No pun intended. Clutch dust, I mean. And there he is, way out in front. Puts him into the final against Ed McCullough.
And Oswald will enjoy lane choice. Let's go to Steve with the winner.
You know, Mark, this has all the earmarks of a virtual dead heat between you and McCullough. The performance is so perfectly balanced.
Yeah, me and Ed have raced plenty of times, and it's always a good race. I'm ready for it.
He says lane choice doesn't matter, but the guy that doesn't have it always says that.
Yeah, but he may be right. You know, we were kind of indecisive about what lane to take. Leonard said both lanes are good. Which one do you feel the best in? So we just kind of took a guess at it.
Get her ready.
Thank you.
Well, at least this time Mark and his crew won't have to change engines, which is the case right now with Lori Johns. That broken motor having been replaced by this one as they get ready to drop the blow-around. She will face Frank Bradley in the Top Fuel semifinals. Stick with us. Back in Memphis, Tennessee for the Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals. That is the Kenny Bernstein crew test firing their Top Fuel dragster power plant, making sure that they'll be ready for a very tough opponent in Joe Amato in the Top Fuel semifinals. But right now, let's join my pal Steve Evans in the tower here at the Memphis drag strip.
You know, whenever I get a spare moment, I love to come to the timing tower and reminisce with my old buddy, racecaster, NHRA announcer Dave McCullough. When you and I started doing the PA, we were lucky if we had glass in the windows.
Steve, when I started, there was no glass. It was on the back of a flatbed trailer out in the middle of an old airport in Arkansas. And in fact, we didn't have clocks like this. Of course, now we got computers and laser printers. In those days, it was just a big round dial with a hand that went around and gave you the speed only. Nobody cared about elapsed time.
How far we have come. One thing that hasn't changed, though, Dave, is National Dragster. We always had this.
Let me tell you about National Dragster. The best way to get National Dragster is to become a member of NHRA.
I do the membership.
Steve, for $42, you get 48 issues of National Dragster. You get a decal, you get a patch, you get a pin, you get a rule book, and if you call the number on your screen right now, you get a copy of Drag Racing 89, all of the excitement of last year, hosted by yours truly and some other guy.
Some other guy.
Hush.
I'm not getting in the middle of that one. As we go to the Pro Stock semifinal, Alderman versus Glidden. Interesting race. And now let's go to Big Daddy Don Garlitz for his predictions.
In the Pro Stock semifinal, we find Darrell Alderman versus Bob Glidden and Larry Morgan versus Jerry Eckman. Now, in the Alderman-Glidden confrontation, the ETs are identical, 733. So it's going to be who leaves the line first. That puts Bob's feet to the fire, and I think if he doesn't red light, he'll get off the line first. But now, a 729, such as Larry Morgan has, will beat a 730. So it looks to me like Larry Morgan, unless he breaks, is going to win.
Okay, Steve Evans, there you have it from the man. What do you think?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Don's usually pretty accurate. Interesting here, Bob Glidden is the only Ford in Pro Stock. Darrell Alderman in the near lane is the only Dodge. A couple of very successful, yet maverick racers. Fasten your helmet strap, everybody. We're going for a ride. As Big Daddy said, it's Glidden away first, and we're with him. Watch to the left, and there is the front fender of Darrell Alderman. It is Alderman. Upsetting Big Daddy's predictions, unfortunately. But a 727, what a stout elapsed time, defeating Glidden 731.
As I predicted, Glidden takes a healthy starting line advantage. And it looked like he might be able to hold on to it till we get about mid-range. And that Dodge 440 makes a tremendous move, shoots right out in front of Glidden. Even though Glidden had the higher top speed, came on a little bit at the end, but it counted for nothing.
Well, Darrell Alderman, this car has been, quite honestly, in a bit of a slump, but boy, you're out of it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we run good that last round. It felt good.
I get to tell you, right? 727.
That's fantastic. I thought it was hooking up good that time. We made a change in the car, and it seemed to like it, so I hope we can run in the final that way.
Just leave it alone, huh?
Yes. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, great driver, great Dodge automobile.
Well, excellent pro stock race, and I would expect we'll see a duplicate of that kind of competition between these two guys. A couple of professionals driving sister GM brands. Larry Morgan in his Oldsmobile versus Jerry Eckman in that pretty yellow Pontiac Trans Am.
And Brock, as Don Garlick pointed out, the performance edge has to go to Larry Morgan, the Oldsmobile. Jerry Eckman, and Jerry Eckman trying to make up for that has red lighted. He left the starting line too soon before the green light came on. He's disqualified. Ignore the fact that he got to the finish line first. Larry Morgan, how about this? He matches Darrell Alderman 7:27 elapsed time with a big speed of 188 miles per hour. So you have it. Larry Morgan and Darrell Alderman will be in the final round. And here's the red light.
Yeah, you can see Eckman was a little nervous about that previous 729 by Morgan, and he squeezed the tree just a little bit tight. And like I thought, the better performance by Morgan intimidated Eckman.
And boy, what a pro stock final we've got coming up. Alderman and Morgan. Alderman with lane choice by 6 1/1000ths of a second.
And as you guys know, the neat thing about NHRA Championship drag racing is you can buy a pit pass and be right at Ed McCullough's locker room, so to speak, up close to all the action as they try the adjustability problem with their application device, or whatever Bernie federally said earlier today. And you notice none of those bands are getting in the way. You just don't mess with Eddie's McCullough. And over on the other side of the pits, a nice crowd also admiring the mechanical expertise of the Candies and Hughes team. Mark Oswald, maybe the driver, but he's also one of the important wrenches on this car. He pitches right in. No prima donna there. We'll be back with the Top Fuel Semis.
Oh boy, everybody having a grand old time here at the Memphis Motorsports Park as we carry on with the Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals. And I'll tell you what, they got a reason to cheer Big Daddy Don Garlitz, because they're going to watch Laurie Johns go against Frank Bradley in the Top Fuel semifinal. Interesting matchup here.
Excellent matchup. Also consider that Laurie John is sitting on a brand new power plant.
And you can bet the boys and girls in the grandstands are divided on this one. Laurie Johns, far lane. Frank Bradley in the near lane. Laurie has won 2 races this year. It's a beautiful start by both drivers. Flame out of the header by Bradley. He falls back. Oh, my. A 4.99 for the new motor of Laurie Johns, her mom doing the boogie. Look at the speed, Don Garlitz, only 252. That's hard to believe.
Well, they must have told her, shut it off early. This is a brand new one. Let's get a jet reading.
Boy, what would it have run had she extended it all the way to the finish line? All right, who's going to race Laurie Johns in the final round?
Well, it's going to be interesting. Joe Amato versus Kenny Bernstein. Here comes Bernstein to the line with that red and white automobile of his. He is in pretty decent shape, having had no major mechanical problems this day. On the other hand, his opponent, Joe Amato, had to change engines earlier. So as these two guys get ready for their burnouts, let's go to Steve.
Laurie, 4.99 with a brand new motor.
I knew that car was going to run 4.99 just as soon as we got it to run a 1/4 mile. You know, Larry Meyer's really brilliant, and yes.
We'll try to get the car up the racetrack. But you go ahead and steer it, okay?
Okay, I'll steer it and walk. How's that? Yeah, I knew it was going to run a 4.99 just as soon as we got it to make a full pass. It kept having problems. We wheel stood it, we shook it, we threw the blower belt off, we kicked the rods out, and now it's running 4.99. So that's all we need to win this race.
Got total confidence now in not only your ability, but everybody on your crew.
I do. They're fantastic, and we're ready.
Right, Steve, and here are a couple of guys getting ready. That is Dale Armstrong guiding his longtime partner in crime, as it were, Kenny Bernstein, into the staging lights. And on the other side, his opponent, Joe Amato. What do you think, Don Garlitz?
I think they're ready also. Both these teams are up to the challenge.
This is the best performance by Kenny Bernstein since he joined the Top Fuel category at the beginning of the season. Amato in the near lane. It is Bernstein with a beautiful hole shot, but it's not enough to match wheels with Amato.
His crew celebrates a $4.99. They match the number of Laurie Johns. If you carry it out to the thousands, however, they have lost lane choice to the young lady from Texas.
Beautiful start by Bernstein. Takes a nice advantage, but Amato's car moves quickly as the Richards power comes on, and you can see him just train length him right there in the middle of the course, completely out in front of Bernstein by the end with a fantastic 282-mile-an-hour top speed.
Okay, there's your top fuel finalists, Johns and Amato. Johns with a lane choice by 6 thousandths.
For the second NHRA national event in a row, the same top fuel finalists, Laurie Johns and you, Joe Amato, both ran 4.99.
Who has lane choice?
I knew you were going to ask that. She does.
Well, you know, both lanes look pretty good, Steve. I guess we'll just have to.
The guy always says that when he doesn't get lane choice.
That's a standard story, right? But you know, we're just glad to be in the final. You know, it's been a tough race, and the teams are all running good right now. So it'll be 2 times now and we're in the final against Laurie, so maybe we can reverse the outcome in the last race. But we'll have us a good drag race either way.
We'll be watching very closely.
Oh, it's going to be a great one as we watch the fiberglass nose piece of Darrell Alderman's Dodge Daytona being placed into position. He will go against Larry Morgan in the Pro Stock Final. Stick with us. We'll be back in Memphis.
"16 cars began the war in the top fuel dragster category. It is now boiled down to 2, the finalists. We're in the pit area of Joe Amato as his crew, as always, very quietly, very methodically disassembles this engine to examine every single nut, bolt, spark plug, and bearing. And over in the Laurie Johns camp, even though her crew doesn't have quite the final round experience that Tim Richards and Joe Amato do, they proved today with that engine exchange that they were up to the task that this sport presents. Earlier, I had a chance to take a close-up look at a very unusual superstock car. Those of you with stock Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais who are trying to do wheel stands like the machines you see in the Sportsman superstock classes at the drag strip, stop it. Quit it. It just isn't going to happen because you don't have under the hood what driver Rock Running does in his GTJ automatic. That's a 305 Olds V8 rear-wheel drive. What you have is the Quad 4 mounted transversely and front-wheel drive. A few years ago, NHRA came up with a set of rules to allow the late-model enthusiasts to run in superstock so that the cars all went from the 60s and 70s. Now, this is a kit sold by F.J. Smith. There's others on the market that have allowed Rock Running to do this very easily. Now, the body has to remain absolutely stock, as does the interior of the automobile, with the exception of a roll bar and some other safety equipment. Brock Yates, how did Rock Running do with this car in eliminations? And tell us about the rest of the Sportsman classes as well.
Well, Steve O'Rock went down to defeat in round 3, beaten by Rodney McNeil. Here is the Superstock final. Greg Stanfield in the Camaro versus Mick Leiferman in his Pontiac Trans Am. Remember now, these are handicap starts in these Superstock finals, so Stanfield away first. He runs a 10:29. Leiferman tried to play catch-up, ran a 9:51 at 141 miles an hour. Not enough, and Greg Stanfield goes on to win the Superstock final. Blaine Johnson continues his excellent performance in Top Alcohol dragster to win that class. Top Alcohol funny car goes to Danny Townsend after Pat Austin red-lighted. Competition Eliminator winner David Rampy. Stock Eliminator is Ron Gary.
And our congratulations to all of the Sportsman winners who make up the 600-car field here at the NHRA Cheap Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals. Hear that rumble in the background? Sounds like the Pro Stock finale to me, and what a great race it should be. The Oldsmobile of Larry Morgan up against the solitary Dodge of Darrell Alderman.
Going to be really an interesting confrontation. Remember now, these men had essentially identical ETs, just a matter of a few thousandths of a second separating them, with the advantage going to the Dodge Daytona of Darrell Alderman. As Steve said, a unique piece. And earlier, he had a look at the operation that put this machine in the Pro Stock final.
Much like Bob Glidden is the only Ford Pro Stock racer, Darrell Alderman and the Wayne County Speed Shop crew are the only Dodge Pro Stock racer. And it's not easy to run any make car in Pro Stock, but with the quantity of General Motors cars, there's got to be a certain amount of shared technology through the factory, even if it's accidental. But Mike Sullivan, the crew chief on this car, you guys know how tough it is when you're all by yourself.
Oh, you know it, Steve. We're just... we're loners, and Chrysler picked us, and we're real proud of that. And we developed this thing. It's taken us 3 years to get where we are today, and it's been very tough. And naturally they're proud of us when we do well. They're not too proud of us when we don't do well. We went from not qualifying at 2 races because of the new car. That was a problem. We had a lot of little problems to work out. And needless to say, we've done real well here. We're real happy.
Any other racers out there considering this combination to come up and talk to you and say, I'd like to run a Dodge President?
There's not that many. No, I'm going to say the answer to that's no. There's a few people that race Mopars, but it takes a lot of dollars.
That's good luck in the final round.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Morgan and Alderman set to go. Big Daddy, you got to look to Morgan. This automobile beautifully prepared, and he's run really well for the last few races.
You can't count Alderman out. He's a real good lever. And remember, he powered by Glidden in the middle of the course.
That's right. He absolutely out-muscled Bob Glidden, and few have done that. Just about ready, the Pro Stock final. Finally, Morgan inches in. It's Alderman away first. Alderman with 300s in the bank. Not enough. Larry Morgan at 7:27 has won the Pro Stock final. His crew celebrates, his wife, the baby, everybody very happy here at Memphis. Alderman at 7:30. Both ran 1:89. What a classic final, Don.
Well, this is why the fans love Pro Stock. They don't crackle and pop like fuelers, but they make up for it in that side-by-side racing. Alderman almost put enough in the bank at the starting line to win the race, but just by inches loses. What a race.
Larry, I'm so happy Morgan has won the Mid-South Nationals in fine fashion at a 7:27.
Thank God. Man, am I happy. I couldn't be any happier. Let me tell you something, Steve. You know, the last one was for Pinellas, but my wife and little boy got to come to this, and I couldn't be any happier. I have to thank Castro Oldsmobile, Jim Oliver, my engine builder, Andy Magnuson, my head porter, Gary Pierman, Tom Roberts, everybody around, all my sponsors. Thank God for this, and I'm happy.
Which was your favorite 7 Dwarf?
I don't want to say.
Happy would be my guess.
Happy. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Okay, let's go to Funny Car Finals with this Candies and Hughes automobile. Mark Oswald up. He will face off against Ed the Ace McCullough, going for win number 3, Steve Evans.
That's right. Don Garlington, take a brave man to try to pick one here. Are you that brave?
Well, the only thing I can say is, you know, Oswald's been in the final 2 years in a row. He's definitely hungry, but you can't count the ace out either.
Oh, absolutely not. Here's Oswald in the near lane. The car, crew, and driver have all performed beautifully today. Same could be said for McCullough. The ace off the mark first. But it is Oswald, the Ford Probe at 5:42 to a 5:47. Both Pro Stock and Funny Car racers have provided incredible final rounds.
Well, Leonard, I'll tell you what, you told me you're going to step it up a little bit the last time we changed that engine, but 5:42 was enough to win it.
Well, actually we did, but you can see the black, it was spinning the tires. It's black marked all the way to the lights, and it just never stops rotating. So
plenty of horsepower,
though, huh? No ET. Well, I don't know. They had too much clutch, and I don't know, track something. Evidently, the track's good because these cars are running good. We're just not there. That's all.
Got to be pleased, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good wins. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Great work.
Well, Leonard never shows much emotion. You can bet he's really happy. As we watch the replay, we'll be able to see what Leonard was talking about. As the cars come off the pad, watch very closely, and you'll see some black marks start to appear on the racetrack. And this is what Leonard is talking about, causing a little bit of tire slipping. Very difficult to see here in the late afternoon, but it's out there.
Mark Oswald has won his first Funny Car title of the 90s. Great job.
It's about time. No, it was a good race. Ed and I always have good races. Our car just ran a little better on the other end. I mean, it was nip and tuck right there till the last couple feet.
You had a horrible time at the last race, Atlanta, smoking the tires. They're dried up now. You just need to go a little quicker to win some more.
Yeah, you know, I just thank everybody on this Motorcraft team because we've been trying some new things and we haven't looked real good performance-wise, but it is steady, and that put us in the final round.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we've got one race left here at Memphis Motorsport Park, and it will involve this man, Joe Amato, who will go against Laurie Johns in the Top Fuel Final. Stick with us. 600 cars showed up here in Memphis, and now 2 are left. That is Jerry Amato guiding her husband back into the staging lanes for the Top Fuel Final. Over there in the far lane, Lori Johns, her crew, Larry Meyer guiding her into position. She has been a major surprise this season, and a lady who has traveled with her through the campaign is her mother. Steve was with her.
Julia, I know it's still not old hat with Lori going into her 3rd final round, but is it a little easier on Mom?
Yes, it is. I'm forgetting all the bad things, and now it's all good. I'm trying to control myself, though, when she wins. I just went wild the first time, and now I'm trying to be more, act like a mother.
Just kind of laid back.
Yeah, kind of laid back, but I still can't help it. I'm so excited.
The more relaxed you can be, the more relaxed she'll be.
I think so. I try to act calm and, not look at her, because I think, well, she might be able to see it in my eyes. The other day, she commented on her father. She said, Daddy must be upset with me about something when he backed me up. She said he just had this look on his face, and I don't know what I did, but I did something.
Good luck to y'all.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
All right. Right now, it's up to her daughter, who has lane choice, Don Garlitz, by a mere 6/1000ths of a second here against Joe Amato.
And even though the lanes are practically even, it's still an advantage.
Amato loses traction. Lori Johns crew with her fists in the air, and why not? 5 seconds flat. 270 miles per hour. What was that Julia Johns said about settling down and being much calmer now when they win their next race? Julia, you told a little white lie. Down there in the celebration is Brock Yates.
I can't believe it.
Larry, I'll tell you what a consistent performance. You guys just kept running and running all day long.
Well, yeah, just today, but boys, Friday and Saturday, we had hell just making on the track. I guess when it all comes together, it all comes together.
Yeah, I tell you what, it just happens in this sport. You can't tell, Kenny. Every run's a little bit different, and everyone's it's just a kick.
My daddy told me that the road to success was always under construction. I guess we're always working on it.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Great work.
Boy, watching the replay, Amato was just brilliant on the starting line, but it was all for naught. They had been intimidated by that 499 earlier, set the clutch a little hot, and there she went, instant smoke.
Lori Johns has now won half of the NHRA national events run this year, 3 out of 6.
It's really hard to believe. If you'd asked me yesterday after qualifying was over if we were going to win this race, I would have told you the odds were no. But you just can't count out Larry Meyer and my crew. And this Jolly Rancher Top Fuel Dragster is going to win the races this year, I guess. This brand new car.
Your mom told me she's more relaxed now going to the finals. Are you?
No, not at all. Somebody asked me if it was getting easier, and I don't think it's getting easier. It's easier because we're winning, but getting there's not any easier.
5 flat.
5 flat. That's not what I expected, but gosh, it won their way, so we can't complain about it. This is going to be a real fast car. It feels fantastic.
Gonna be?
It's real fast now. You can't really complain about it. It's just, I'm really kind of astonished right now. I can't believe that we've won 3 of the 6 races this year. It's very, very hard for me to believe.
And you have padded your lead in the Winston Drag Racing Series points.
I can't believe we're walking out of here number 1. I really thought that it would be somebody else. I thought we were going to have number 1 for 1 week and we'd lose it.
Go Amato. Offering congratulations. And here comes the crew. Look at this gang.
And our congratulations to all the winners here at the Chief Auto Parts Mid-South Nationals. For Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Steve Evans, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
For 7 seasons, Diamond P Sports' award-winning American Sports Cavalcade series on TNN has covered a wider variety of motorsports than any other, and with more cameras than you normally see. And it's because of the talented people who man these viewfinders that Diamond P has been able to produce a 90-minute home video entitled, And They Walked Away. Incredible crashes from stock car racing, motocross, IMSA and SEC road racing, NHRA drag racing, Eastern modifieds, even swamp buggies, and more. To get your copy of And They Walked Away, send $24.95 plus $3.50 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. Or better yet, call 1-800-453-9300. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. Call now 1-800-453-9300.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.